at 9.
Hello there, a very good evening to you. It's the 27th of November 2014. I am Sonali Manigabaduke.
And I'm Madhushka Balasuriya. Let's start off with a look at tonight's headlines.
SAARC leaders extend their warm wishes for President ahead of the presidential poll. Maithripala Sirisena comments on malpractice at the Ministry of Health. Deputy Minister Sanat Jayasuriya expresses regret. Secretary of Defence says that the most important tool countries have at their disposal to combat drug and human trafficking is intelligence. Australian cricketer Phil Hughes passes away.
The Presidential Media Unit says that SAARC leaders have offered their best wishes for President Mahinda Rajapaksa's re-election bid during bilateral discussions held before the final session of the summit today.
In a statement issued today, the Presidential Media Unit said that when President Mahinda Rajapaksa called on Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi, the Indian Premier has said that the whole of India had commended the Sri Lankan President for pardoning the 5 Indian fishermen on death row. During the discussion, President Mahinda Rajapaksa had also requested the Sri Lankan fishermen imprisoned in Andhra Pradesh and Tamil Nadu be released. Meanwhile, President Mahinda Rajapaksa called on Pakistan's Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif and held bilateral discussions where appreciation was shown towards the support extended by Pakistan to Sri Lanka during the time of war. Both leaders had also discussed working together to eradicate terrorism. The Presidential Media Unit said that President Mahinda Rajapaksa was invited to make an official visit to Pakistan.
The common opposition candidate at the upcoming presidential election, Maithripala Sirisena, met with a group of medical professionals today.
The meeting between Maithripala Sirisena and the medical professionals took place at the new town hall in Colombo today. Several opposition political representatives were present at the meeting.
Ministry secretaries, the Inspector General of Police, the Director General of Customs and even judges can tell you about the level of independence they have in their positions. Even as a minister in 2010, I was unable to appoint the advisor I needed. In January 2012, the Ministry Progress Review meeting was held at Temple Trees. I had asked the officer from the Legal Draftsman's Department to attend as well. She said at this meeting that she will produce the final draft bill within 2 weeks. Thereafter, neither the bill nor the official could be found. I am not able to hold disciplinary inquiries into officials at the Legal Draftsman's Department, but there should have been an inquiry into it. When the chairman of a certain company came to the ministry and raised a problem with me, I said, "Please tell me the truth. Do you know what happened to this bill?" He looked at me and said, "Sir, there are over 400 companies registered with the Ministry of Health. Each had given about 2.5 million rupees. I presented the amendment to warnings on tobacco packets to the cabinet. My cabinet paper was rejected by the cabinet. The legal officer said, "Sir, there is space in the law that we can use to publish the gazette. We can go ahead with it if you wish." They began to see that I was unsuitable to them after I published that gazette notice. There are several things that I must do on the 8th of January 2015. I will make the warning on the packet of cigarettes cover an area of 90% rather than 80%.
Maithripala Sirisena also commented on the interruption of the Satana program on Saturday, which was his first live TV appearance since being announced as the common opposition candidate.
You know that 3 days ago I participated on the Satana program on Sirasa. They blocked the entire program so the people could not watch it. Is this freedom? Is this democracy? Is this what they want a third term for?
An important change is taking place in politics in this country. The executive presidency will be abolished and these powers will be vested in a legislature led by a prime minister. There are no executive prime ministers here. The legislature will appoint a cabinet of ministers. The chief minister of that cabinet will be the prime minister. Following the election on the 8th, the government we establish will be an all-party representative government. It will be a 2-year all-party representative government intended to lift this country out of the crevice it has fallen into. On the 10th, we will submit this convention. Some of the parties have held discussions with us regarding that cabinet. Some will not participate in the cabinet. We will make them committee chairman via the committees. They have agreed to that. So even the minister will not be able to act alone.
Deputy Leader of the United National Party, Sajith Premadasa, stated at an event held in Bandagiriya today that interpretations given by the government with regard to allegations of political conspiracy are incorrect.
Al Jazeera kina jatyantara rupawahini nalikawe
an individual who represents the Elam Tiger diaspora said on the Al Jazeera international TV channel that as soon as the current president is defeated at the presidential election, they would take him and the other war heroes to the International War Crimes Court. Who is it that deals directly with the LTTE Allied Global Tamil Forum? It is Kumaran Padmanathan, the Tiger leader who holds a senior position in the Sri Lanka Freedom Party. KP is the one who had dealings with the international Tiger diaspora, procured arms for Prabhakaran, and implemented the international plan to murder our brave war heroes. It was Kumaran Padmanathan. Kumaran Padmanathan has told his old colleague, his old henchman, to somehow say this on TV, so that it would incite the people of Sri Lanka. I say clearly that the International Tiger Collective made this statement on behalf of Kumaran Padmanathan. Why? So it would put the opposition that is rebuilding the country at a disadvantage.
This event was held to distribute water through bowsers to the residents of the Bandagiriya area.
Meanwhile, the Jataka Hello Ramaya convened a special seminar at the new town hall today.
The aim of the seminar was to put forward proposals to abolish the executive presidency, establish independent commissions for good governance and implement an electoral system that is responsible to the public.
We eat on debt, we clothe ourselves on debt, we provide relief on debt and even give gifts to other countries on debt. The income this country receives is completely exhausted on capital interest of loans taken. Everything else is done on debt.
We saw especially in these last 4 years that the United People's Freedom Alliance has taken hostage 3 to 4 smugglers. To counter this, we tried to create a struggle both internally and externally, but we soon realized that it was not bearing fruit. It is because we understood this that we left the alliance. We are now carrying out a humanitarian operation to protect the self-esteem of the public who voted us into power. From these notorious people, most people's ministries in this country run for only 6 months of the year. Some people's ministries of course function continuously. The other ministries don't have funds. The public finds faults that such a large cabinet exists. But these ministers, other than the appointment of their 6 secretaries, do not even have the power or the funds to appoint a chairman to their ministries. This is the sad truth. These ministers do not need funds from embassies.
Without giving an opportunity to anyone else from his party, he has decided himself to contest for the 3rd time. What has he said to the country through this decision? What is the picture he has painted to the country? He has become unsuitable as soon as he sought a 3rd term as president. As the patriotic leader who won the war, as the leader who defeated terrorism, he has achieved much to join the history books. But he has cast a black mark on all of that by portraying himself as a selfish, power-hungry person. We must vote against the drug smugglers and racketeers and ensure that we are victorious at the presidential election. This is a decisive presidential election. I have said from the beginning that we will definitely defeat this president at an upcoming presidential election.
As the race to the presidential election heats up, let's now take a look at some of the views that have been expressed on the political stage.
The fact that all the women of our motherland have rallied as one to ensure that the victory of His Excellency the President who brought freedom to the country will be a comprehensive one is a great strength to us.
What we have is an imperialist allied fascist regime. He says he has files regarding the crimes they have committed, apparently of Maitripala Sirisena too. I ask how he came to have those files. Take out those files and we will give the due punishment to these henchmen.
He said he has files, but he will not reveal them. So that means he has information on all the corruption, but he will not even consider it a social responsibility to expose it. These are political conspiracies. They are political games and political crossovers.
We were damned because when we first entered parliament, we had to sit with the opposition. We thought that 54 would come over from that side and that we will have to sit them in between seats.
But look at all those who have crossed over day by day. Every day they get a result that knocks the wind out of them. We take the teeth out one by one. We never remove all the teeth at once. They called me early in the morning and I was asleep. My wife brought me the phone and they asked, Rajitha, are you going? I did not say I wouldn't go. All I said was that I was asleep.
Whenever anyone has left us, they have not fared well unless they return to our party and received that cover and protection.
There is already a Maitri Palana. Even my regime is a Maitri Palana. It is not a hateful regime. We have a Maitri Palana. We will not let anyone turn into a hateful regime.
In this alliance government, some are involved in abuse, others are involved in crime, still others are selling drugs, and the rest are running brothels.
Meanwhile, at an event held in Mathura today, Deputy Minister of Postal Services Sanat Jayasuriya expressed his opinion with regard to shortcomings in the ministry.
The event was held in lieu of commencing renovations on the Hakmana post office. A sum of 10 million rupees is being spent on this project, which is being undertaken parallel to the Dayatikirula National Development Exhibition.
These days, at times, we are afraid to point out shortcomings. That is because the moment you point out a mistake, they think that you are about to cross over. There are shortcomings I have seen in the Department of Postal Services. As a Deputy Minister, I too am helpless at times. It has been more than a year since I was appointed Deputy Minister. I have made written requests for things that are required at the Mathura Post Office in my electorate, but I have not received anything. Just as we speak of the positives, we must speak of the negatives in our ministry and address those issues. I do not know whether the time is right. What I have to say is that if there's a mistake in our ministry, it must be mentioned. As the United People's Freedom Alliance and the Sri Lanka Freedom Party, we are with our President, 100% and beyond. We are very happy that this time frame has been the time when we have spent the most money in our lives. The money and time which has been restricted to the city alone was brought to the villages in the time of President Mahinda Rajapaksa. I wish to happily state that it is during the time of President Mahinda Rajapaksa that I have been happiest in my life, and it is during this time that I have seen the most development.
Two more political parties have decided to put forward their own candidates for the 2015 presidential election. The parties that put forward their candidates today were the Frontline Socialist Party and the Nava Samasamaja Party.
The Leftist Front, which is a composition of several leftist parties, including Frontline Socialist Party, named Duminda Nagamua as their presidential candidate.
We have two camps. We wish to say to the public that these two places are the final destinations. It is the same people who have changed sides and are contesting. Therefore, we decided that this time it is the left's turn.
The Nava Samasamaja Party named Sundaram Mahindran as their candidate for the presidential poll.
We always stepped onto the streets during the time of the war. I recall that in 2008 in the Minnal program on Shakti TV, Comrade Ranga had said that they are not sure whether Vikramabahu sleeps at home because he is always opposite the station. We will also render our support to ensure that Maithripala Sirisena, the common candidate, will win the election so that this fascist system can be defeated. Talk of a shift in power in the provincial councils has made its way onto the national stage, causing a stir in the political arena. Today, subsequent to the Uva Provincial Council sittings, a press conference was held to expose attempts to initiate a power shift in the council.
Anyone can cross over, but as a group, we are not sure who will cross over from this side to that side and back. The current trend will see a fallback. Yesterday, I made phone calls because it is the responsibility of the Chief Minister to take care of the 34 members. We take care of the opposition leader also in the same manner. I have clearly said that I am willing to give away the Chief Minister's position. However, unfortunately, the opposition leader is having discussions with the President. So if he comes, we are ready to give him the post of Chief Minister. If that is what he needs, we are prepared to step down and give him his Chief Minister position.
Meanwhile, Chief Minister of the Western Provincial Council, Prasanna Ranatunga, stated at a media briefing held today that there are no issues with regard to power in the Western Provincial Council.
There are 44 councillors in the opposition party. The three Jatika Hela Urumia members from our 60 members have already said that although they are with the alliance, they will not be voting. Even without these three, we will have 57 others. There is no problem with the position of the Western Provincial Council when considering power. We believe strongly that our members will never betray our party in exchange for wealth or position.
Moving into one of our headline-making stories now, Secretary of Defence Gotabaya Rajapaksa says that the most important tool countries have at their disposal to combat drug and human trafficking is intelligence. The Defence Secretary made this statement today at the South and Southeast Asian Nations or SASEAN Defence Chiefs Dialogue 2014.
The dialogue, which is being held under the theme Promoting Security Through Dialogue and Cooperation, saw the ambassadors and chiefs of defence staffs of the region in attendance. Secretary of Defence Gotabaya Rajapaksa and Deputy Minister of the Russian Federation Anatoly Antonov participated in the dialogue.
Some of the policies that we have which are intended to improve the quality of life of our citizens and encourage economic development through tourism and trade can also be used by terrorists and criminals for their activities. Drug trafficking, which is increasingly becoming a serious issue for many of the countries in our region. On occasion, we have seen instances where drug dealers have escaped law enforcement agencies by moving into other countries and staying in these countries illegally, using them as safe havens. Human trafficking is another problem that is becoming increasingly significant in today's context. This has become a very lucrative business for people smugglers, some of whom also have links to international terrorism as well as drug trafficking. Combating these issues is critical to our nation's economic development and future prosperity. The most important tool that countries have at their disposal in this regard is intelligence.
The call for an international investigation into the situation in Sri Lanka by the Human Rights Council of the United Nations emanated barely a week after the defeat of terrorism, which reunited the country 5 years ago. The ill-conceived resolution on Sri Lanka, adopted in March 2014, resulting from politicized action, diaspora compulsions, and reports not mandated by the intergovernmental process, lacks legitimacy and credibility. It is completely unwarranted and for that reason rejected by the government of Sri Lanka. Despite genuine desire to defeat terrorism, foster reconciliation, and through it restore peace and harmony, Sri Lanka is being negatively influenced by extra-regional forces via international agencies. Such action has caused mistrust about international processes among the people of Sri Lanka and also negatively impacted our reconciliation efforts. Sri Lanka and the region will continue to be exposed to challenges by non-state actors and influenced by extra-regional forces in the future too.
The ASEAN dialogue, which commenced today, will conclude on the 29th of this month.
Senior leader of the Bharatiya Janata Party, Subramaniam Swamy, says that India would join with Sri Lanka at the UN Human Rights Council session. He made this comment while delivering the Lalit Athulatmudali Memorial Oration organised by the Bandaranaike Centre for International Studies in association with the Lalit Athulatmudali Foundation, which was held in Colombo last evening.
Dr. Subramaniam Swamy, senior BJP leader, economist and a former cabinet minister, delivered the memorial oration titled SAARC Reforms and Globalization. Many prominent personalities were present for the oration last evening.
How do we therefore work out to develop and make SAARC into a viable instrument? First of all, SAARC is the only body in the whole world which doesn't have a human rights organization of its own. The Africans have it, the Europeans have it, ASEAN has it. But SAARC does not have a human rights commission. And therefore we have this ridiculous example of people from all over the world coming to tell us what is human rights. What has happened in Sri Lanka was one of the most disgraceful chapters in the UN Human Rights Commission. I hope that this time, I expect this time that the government of India, instead of either abstaining or opposing Sri Lanka, would join with Sri Lanka and tell them none of your business.
A group of Dialogue subscribers carried out a demonstration today as a mark of protest against the interruption in transmission during the telecast of the Satana political program on Sirasa TV on Saturday.
The protest was carried out opposite the Dialogue head office in Colombo. The protesters accused the company of failing to properly provide a service that they had paid for. We are rallying to protest against the suppression of the free media and the undertaking by Dialogue and Pure TV to prevent the youth, our parents and elders from identifying the true burning issues facing the country via the Satana program, for example.
We have the freedom to know what's happening at present. We will gather like this if they try to crush us from all sides. I would like to tell the government that a larger number of people will gather in the future.
Dialogue has emerged as a new media. The people of this country have the right to know what's happening. The whole country was inconvenienced due to the disruption in the Satana program telecast on Sirasa TV. Dialogue TV directly got involved in the efforts to hide the truth in the country. As Dialogue users, we strongly oppose this. The Dialogue satellite connection we are paying for is to watch what we want. We were deprived of our media rights and both Dialogue and Pure TV channels were disrupted. We managed to have the Satana program telecast that day only through the internet. We are protesting against the government requesting that media freedom be given to Sirasa TV, who work towards the betterment of the country and the people of this country.
රාජ්‍ය බලයට මේ ඉල්ලා සිටිනවා පාරිභෝගික විදියට පාරිභෝගික ජනතාව බැලුම් අපි කියන්නේ අපි ගෙවලා ඩයලොග් වලට POT වලට අපි ගෙවලා සල්ලි කොම් කුරා කරනවා විතරක් නෙමෙයි අපේ මානව අයිතිය අපේ මාධ්‍ය අයිතිය නැති කරනවා.
In a story that rocked world cricket today, Philip Hughes has died in hospital 2 days after he was hit by a bouncer at the Sydney cricket ground.
Tributes for the former Test batsman have been pouring in, with Cricket Australia CEO James Sutherland saying that the word tragedy gets used too often in sport, but this freak accident is now real-life tragedy.
That's right. Now, moreover, issuing a statement today, Sri Lanka Cricket has said that SLC shares the grief of Philip Hughes' untimely death with his family, friends and teammates.
Newsfirst Shamir Rasuldin reports.
Philip Hughes is the embodiment of Australian batsmen. The home country boy from New South Wales was part cricketer, part fighter.
He was a hero to kids around the nation, particularly those in the region around his hometown of Maxville in New South Wales.
As a batsman, Hughes had guts. He began his career by being the youngest man to score centuries in both innings of a test match. His form was patchy, and he was seen in and out of the Australian team. Hughes works for his game from England, playing for Worcestershire and Hampshire. He was popular in county cricket. Hughes, batting for South Australia, collapsed face first on the ground after being hit by a bouncer from 22-year-old Sean Abbott during a Sheffield Shield game against New South Wales. Hughes had been wearing a helmet, but the ball struck him at the top of the neck, causing the injury. He had CPR and mouth-to-mouth resuscitation at the ground before being taken to St Vincent Hospital, where he had a 90-minute operation to relieve pressure on his brain. An emotional Australian captain, Michael Clarke, read out a statement on behalf of the Hughes family at a news conference held at St Vincent Hospital, where the player, who would have been 26 on Sunday, was being treated.
We would like to thank all the medical and nursing staff at St Vincent's Hospital and Cricket New South Wales medical staff for their great efforts with Philip. We love you.
Minutes after his death was announced, Australian Prime Minister Tony Abbott and ICC Chief Executive reacted to the tragic news.
The thought that a player in his prime should be killed playing our national game is shocking and sobering. We should be conscious of the risks that our sports people run to give us the pleasure that they do.
We are all very shocked and saddened by the tragic news of Philip Hughes' passing. I think all those who've played cricket, who play cricket, who have children playing cricket, are devastated by this news across the world.
Still in his 20s, Philip Hughes may have played for Australia for many years to come. It is a great tragedy for his country and the sport that he leaves his crease far too early. Shamir Rasuldeen, News First.
Absolutely sombering stuff. Now, moving back into local news. A meeting of businessmen to ensure the victory of the common candidate Maithripala Sirisena at the presidential election took place in Polonnaruwa yesterday.
The meeting was organised by the elder brother of Maithripala Sirisena, Dudley Sirisena.
There are no extortionists or thugs in this district. There is no other person who can cause an influence here. If you take a look at all the other areas in the country, prominence is for drug peddlers, extortionists and murderers. It is with responsibility that I say that we need to appoint Maithripala Sirisena to ensure that all the people in this country are rescued.
This president cannot be taken before courts. He can do anything he pleases. This needs to be removed. This president is not accountable to the parliament. That means he is not accountable to the people. What he has planned is to have the presidency handed down to his heirs even after his time. The people are aware of the children of these leaders. We wish to say that on the 8th of January, these files will be released by our people.
A blood donation campaign was held in the premises of the Dharmaduta Ashrama Viharaya in Obesekarapura.
The event was held under the auspices of UNP MP Dr. Harsha De Silva.
Both youth and elders arrived at the location since morning and are in line to donate blood. And the blood bank told us that if we could obtain blood from at least 50 people, it would be a great meritorious deed. But we are expecting twice that amount from the people of Obesekarapura.
Lanka Satasa stores commenced selling various types of rice at prices ranging from 50 to 60 rupees a kilogram today. Minister Johnston Fernando states that this step was taken to ensure that the price of rice is not increased along with the onset of the upcoming presidential elections.
The government imposed a price ceiling for rice on the 9th of April this year when the prices skyrocketed close to the Sinhala and Tamil New Year. A ceiling of 77 rupees was imposed per kilogram of samba, while the ceiling for Nadu and Kaklu rice was 68 and 66 rupees per kilogram respectively. However, during the past 7 months, a kilogram of rice was sold at between 80 and 100 rupees in the open market. The subject ministers had stated on several occasions that steps would be taken to resolve the issue.
Some say that a kilogram of rice is sold at 80 rupees. Some others say that a kilogram is sold at 70 rupees. There is a shortage of Kaklu rice. We accept it. I state with responsibility that this issue must be resolved in 2 weeks. Today there has been a significant rise in the price of rice. We accept it. We intend to distribute rice throughout the Sathasa lorries in every town within 10 days. We will control the price. We will not evade this problem. We will save the farmers as well as the consumers.
It was evident that commencing from the 12th of September, rice was distributed through mobile centers in several towns including Colombo and its suburbs. However, although these mobile services were established, there was no significant drop in the price of rice in the market. Hence, the mobile service too did not show signs of continuity. Speaking in Nicobardia, Minister of Cooperatives and Internal Trade Johnston Fernando said that rumours have emerged that certain factions will attempt to influence the presidential election by increasing rice prices.
We have received information that a certain rice mill owner in Polonnaruwa is attempting to increase the price of rice and create a dearth in the market. Therefore, under the leadership of President Mahinda Rajapaksa, we have taken a strong decision to not increase the prices of rice and sell a kilogram of imported Kaklu rice between 50 and 55 rupees and a kilogram of Punisamba at 60 rupees. I will not allow any increase in the price of rice.
A seminar titled Doing Business with China, FTA and Beyond, organised by the Verite Research and Exporters Association of the Ceylon Chamber of Commerce, was held in Colombo yesterday. The seminar focused on the opportunities and challenges for Sri Lankan businesses as they look to navigate the forthcoming free trade agreement and business with China.
The event saw the participation of government officials, diplomat missions, top exporters and leading business figures. Delivering the keynote presentation, trade expert Subhashini Abesinger spoke on the overall bilateral economic ties and useful comparison to China's engagements with emerging economies in the world.
20% of Sri Lanka's government revenue comes from imports. 16% of imports is accounted for by China. So when you liberalize, what is going to happen to our government revenue? China is a very competitive manufacturer. What is going to happen to our domestic industry? So basically, I just looked at the top 20 imports from China. Interestingly, most of them are already zero duty because they are machinery, equipment. There are a few items that is going to be revenue sensitive, like the vehicles, and domestic industry sensitive, like the ceramic products. But if we can get away with our cess, will be okay. So what is interesting is we have 4-band import duty structure. We have 3,003. So we can tell China 3,376 products duty free, no problem, because it's already duty free. But yeah, so the idea is as long as we can continue with this import cess regime without being challenged, maybe our domestic industry or revenue should not be an issue.
Meanwhile, the Foreign Affairs Committee of the UK Foreign and Commonwealth Office, or FCO, in its 6th report of human rights work, has recommended that favourable trade concessions to the EU market should be removed from Sri Lanka if the government of Sri Lanka continues to deny the UN's OHCHR investigation team access into the country. The EU is Sri Lanka's main destination for exports with annual trade flows of 3.5 billion euros. That includes a surplus in Sri Lanka's favour of 1.1 billion euros.
Moving on, the Tea Exporters Association in its monthly newsletter for the month of November has announced that it has reached a decision to establish an electronic tea auctioning system. The decision was reached as a means of saving costs and improving efficiency in disposing the produce.
The decisions were reached at a meeting held with the Tea Exporters Association and the Planters Association last month. Thereby, in addition to the implementation of the electronic tea auctioning system, both parties have agreed to share information in the following capacity. The Tea Exporters Association would provide market information to facilitate appropriate types of teas for production. The Planters Association would provide product information to the Tea Exporters Association. It was also decided to make representations to the relevant authorities to commence the global Ceylon tea campaign, from which all stakeholders would benefit.
The inauguration of the UK trade mission to Sri Lanka, titled "Putting British Business on the Front Foot," was held in Colombo today.
Organised by the UK Trade and Investment Section of the British High Commission, Colombo, the trade mission saw the participation of representatives of 21 British companies eager to explore and discuss further opportunities for trade and investment in Sri Lanka. Deputy Minister for Investment Promotion Faisal Mustafa was the keynote speaker at the event.
We allow total foreign ownership in almost all areas of the economy. There are no restrictions in the repatriation of earnings, fees, capital and on forex transactions related to current account payments. Safety of foreign investment is guaranteed by the Constitution, while a transparent and sophisticated legal and regulatory framework provides full legal guarantees. The country has investment protection agreements with 28 countries and a double taxation avoidance agreement with 38 countries, including the United Kingdom. So you can see that Sri Lanka provides many benefits that make it more attractive for foreign investment.
In his address, British High Commissioner to Sri Lanka, John Rankin, expressed the following views.
The feedback we receive from businesses looking to come to Sri Lanka is that they want to see as little bureaucracy as possible, reductions in unnecessary red tape. They look for legislation which will enhance investor confidence. They look for security of contract. They look for protection from arbitrary decision making. They look for transparency and good governance. And in our discussions with the Minister and with others in the Sri Lankan government, we ask for action to be taken in these areas. But I should note in that context that Sri Lanka remains the highest rated country in South Asia in the World Bank's Ease of Doing Business Index. And we hope that Sri Lanka can move even further up that ladder in future years.
The Disaster Management Centre says that over 7,200 persons from several parts of the island have been affected by the rainy weather conditions.
Several areas in the Vaunia district were inundated as a number of small tanks overflowed with heavy downpours. Areas including Kinnia, Muttur and Dambalagama in the Trincomalee district were inundated as a result of the heavy rain, while transportation on the Surangal-Dambalagama road was stalled. Our correspondent said that several schools in Trincomalee have been closed as a result of floods. The fishing community in the Mullaitivu district has been requested to refrain from setting out to sea due to the inclement weather. Many farmlands in Ampara were also inundated as a result of the downpours. Parts of Batiklo and Erawood were inundated by flood waters. This was the situation in Kilinochchi today. Meanwhile, 2 spill gates each of the Rajangania and Angamo reservoirs have been opened as a result of the heavy rains. However, the opening of the spill gates of the Rajangania reservoir resulted in the overflowing of the Kala Oya, which led to the flooding of the Eluwankulama-Maina road via Putlam. Our correspondent said that this led to a disruption in traffic.
Wind speeds can reach up to 70 kilometers per hour. Therefore, the fishing community is requested to remain vigilant. Currently, the atmosphere in the country is humid, the reasons being that the country not receiving direct sunlight. This situation can also be experienced in the next few days too. Once the cloudy weather is cleared, there will be possibility for thunder showers to occur during the evening hours.
Meanwhile, the District Disaster Management Centre says that there is a risk of landslides taking place in the Bambawa area on the Matale-Galewala road as a result of the heavy rains, and requests people in the area to remain vigilant. In a separate development, an earth embankment collapsed in the Valamita Junction area this morning. Locals had raised red flags in front of their houses to draw the attention of the authorities to the possible risk of landslides in the Alla area in Bandaravela.
Staying in local news, a valiant effort was undertaken to chase away a wild elephant that stormed into the Anuradhapura sacred grounds that also claimed the lives of 2 people.
A joint effort by the forest officers, Sri Lanka Army, Police and Special Task Force managed to tie the pachyderm to a tree close to the Malwadu Oya in Mihindupura. However, the lorry to transport the elephant was not able to make it to the location. After an operation that lasted 4 hours, the elephant was taken to another reserve. Meanwhile, a wild elephant that stormed into the Mottateattava village in Galgamo from the Mee Oya Forest Reserve caused panic amongst the locals. Wildlife officers and the locals spent almost 12 hours to drive away the pachyderm back into the wild.
After 2 cousins were found dead hanging from a mango tree in northern India in May, it needed to be figured out if the girls were killed or committed suicide after they were raped.
Now for the CBI, the case is solved. They believe it was suicide, but not everybody agrees.
After a 5-month probe, the CBI concluded the 2 teenaged cousins, residents of Badaun district in northern state of Uttar Pradesh, had committed suicide, putting to rest reports that the duo was gang raped and murdered. The 2 cousins from a low-caste community went missing from their village when they went out to go to the toilet on the 27th of May. The next morning, villagers found their bodies hanging from a mango tree in a nearby orchard.
So it is unfounded theory and there are so many questions which are unanswered till now, and we from the side of women organization would articulate those issues, and we will pursue our own cases on the basis of that. Till that time we don't approve this theory.
A rape is reported in India every 21 minutes on average, but such crimes are often not reported or properly investigated. However, the story ends. It makes you thinking about an upside-down world.
In your sports news tonight, captain of the Sri Lankan cricket team, Angelo Matthews, says that the win over England was instrumental for the team to regain their form after the series loss to India recently. He made this comment at a post-match press conference yesterday.
The rain-delayed day and night encounter was played at the R. Premadasa Stadium in Colombo. Batting first, Sri Lanka posted 317 runs for the loss of 6 wickets in their 50 overs. Opener Tilakaratne Dilshan top scored with 88, while Kusal Pereira notched 59 runs.